Beginning to deepen the breath in your bellies, starting to bring gentle awareness to your fingers and toes. Maybe slowly starting to drag your heels towards you, bending the knees up towards the ceiling, starting to push away from the bolster. And then we are going to take the bolster and we're going to put it the long way on our mat in front of us. Then I'm going to have you start with your right hip. So your right hip is going to kiss the edge of that bolster. Your right foot is going to kiss the top of your left thigh. And you're going to reach up nice and long with that spine. And then you're going to start to twist. And I'll try not to twist straight from the shoulders. Try to twist from the hips. So you're going to start moving from the low back, moving from that left glute. And then twist, walk your hands either side of the bolster and start to walk yourself down. You may twist your head all the way in the opposite direction if that feels good to you. Otherwise, you can keep the head in the same direction as that right knee and settle in. Taking your time to adjust, allowing yourself to walk the hands down slowly. And settle the awareness at first deep within the spine, starting at the lowest point, breathing and sending the air, the prana, as we say, that energy to the low back, the pelvis, the hips. Imagine that just by you thinking in these areas and placing your awareness, there is a release, an expansion, a relaxing, and an opening. And then you can bring that awareness all the way up the spine slowly, starting to connect to the spine at the low back, at the navel, underneath the rib cage, behind the rib cage to the chest, all the way up. Reminding yourself there's nothing you need to do. You're just placing awareness at these different parts of your body, imagining energy, imagining relaxing. And then start to settle in even deeper. If your mind is busy, coming back to that extended exhale. Maybe inhaling for 4, exhaling for 6. With every exhalation, imagining your body releasing and relaxing. Imagine that intention that you set for this practice is moving forward, taking shape, coming to fruition. Reminding yourself that if at any time the body is in pain, if there's something that hurts, to gently come out, maybe reassess and then try to go back in. If it's just not right, you could always just lay over the side of the bolster and then maybe put your head on your arm and then put your left arm on top of a cushion or another bolster or block. This would be also quite nice if you were carrying a baby, if you're pregnant, or just if things felt extremely tight, maybe even on your menstrual cycle, the moon cycle. Beginning to deepen your breath in your belly. Gently starting to press into the palms, starting to slowly turn back to center. Bringing the spine nice and tall, and then turning, so bringing your legs out long in front of you. Your back is to the bolster. Extend those legs. Maybe pedal it out just a bit. As you start to get yourself ready for the next side. So when you're ready, you're gonna kiss the bolster with your left hip this time. Left foot on right thigh. Raise up through that spine, nice and tall. Starting to shift through the hips, through the glutes, right? And then walk the hands down the sides of the bolster till you can turn and rest your head. If that's available to you, remember you can always keep your head and neck facing the left knee. Settling your awareness into the body, maybe reminding that tongue to relax and widen. Imagining the shoulders relaxing away from the ears. Just connecting to what feels right. beginning to deepen your breath in your bellies, gently pressing into the palms, pushing up through the arms, coming back to center. That low back is touching that bolster. Bring those legs out nice and long. Maybe pedal it out just a little bit. Maybe give yourself a little massage along the legs. All right, you're gonna move your bolster off to the side, and I'd like you to have a block, preferably a block that has a little bit of a squish to it. Otherwise, if you have a harder block, you might want to have a small blanket to just drape over it, just to make it a little more tolerable. We're going to be putting this at our low back. Shouldn't be too bad no matter what. I typically use a cork block for this, so it's not super squishy, but it doesn't seem to be too bothersome. But for some of us, we're more sensitive. So, and then I'd like you to have a blanket for your belly. So you're going to come onto your backs. Knees are in the air, feet are on the floor. Then you're gonna start to rotate your hips back towards your navel. Draw your hips all the way up. You're gonna take that block and just place it low under your sacrum. So you have this nice little stand for that low back. Then when you're ready, you can take your blanket and you can place it on your belly just to give you a little bit of weight here. It's very grounding. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it, obviously, right? It's not going to be helpful. If you don't like it, don't do it. Break your arms out into cactus arms, but as you do this, please notice where your shoulders are in space. They might be feeling very close to your ears, so imagine that as you lift your arms up into cactus, you are rotating your shoulders down and away from your ears, and maybe lifting the chest just slightly and then setting them back down. And go ahead and settle in here. If for whatever reason cactus arms doesn't feel good, you can have your arms just at either side of the hips, palms facing the ceiling. And then for some of you, for whatever reason, it might not feel right to have it the block so low on your low back. So you might rotate it up to one of the other levels if that felt beneficial to you, but it wouldn't overdo it. You haven't warmed up, through a lot of vinyasa or anything. This is just a nice, relaxing, supported bridge. So go ahead and settle in and focus your attention and your awareness on the breath, that extended exhale. Maybe you want to focus on that visualization of connecting deeply to the body, penetrating through all the layers to the bone. And maybe you've already just found a nice empty place to be, so settle in. If at any time there's any pain, reminding yourself, just come on out. Come into a different pose, take care of yourself. Reminding yourself that part of the process of a restorative practice is letting go of any competition or internal judgments. Just allowing yourself to be. Allowing yourself to focus on the moments right where you are. starting to deepen your breath in your bellies, moving from a cactus arm, bringing the hands to either side of the hips, putting the palms on the floor, gently pressing through the hips up, removing the block, and slowly, one vertebrae at a time, lowering your back to the floor. You can gently bring the knees into the chest, so you might need to move the blanket out of the way, and just gently rock from side to side. Not too aggressive, just gentle. One of the little tips that I learned in school when I was learning yoga was just trying not to create the paperclip effect. You know, if you do a paperclip and you go forward and back, you will break the paperclip, right? So we just want to make sure we're not doing an aggressive forward fold from a back bend. Just keeping it really light, really gentle. Good. So the next pose that I was hoping we could do is we are going to go ahead and lay down and do a twist from our backs. So we are going to start with, we always start with our right because our digestion starts on our right. So you're going to lay down on your back and you're going to take your bolster or a stack of blankets or pillows. You're going to put it on your left side. And you're going to bring your arms out to a T. You're going to press down through the feet, pick up your hips, bring them off to the right. So your left hip will kiss the mat first. Lengthen the left leg nice and long on the mat. And then you're sort of ready to just bring your right leg over to that bolster, the stack of blankets. Adjust the bolster so that you feel like you're getting lots of support. I like to have my whole leg on it, so that means I have to angle the bolster just slightly. And then again, if for some reason your hip is feeling really tight and you can reach the bolster, but holding it there takes a lot of effort, you can just toss a blanket onto your thigh, and that will sort of weigh things down for you and take out some of the pressure or the effort. Checking back in with your shoulders, making sure they're rolled down the back away from the ears. Again, arms to a T, and then if you are ready and it feels available, you can turn your head and look towards the right. I actually have my eyes closed to feel like it's more relaxing that way, but your head, your nose is pointed towards the right, towards your fingertips. If you had an extra blanket, you could put it on your belly. If you had maybe a scarf or an eye pillow to put on the forehead or over the eyes, that would just make the pose a little more relaxing if you wanted to try it. Otherwise, settle in and start to allow the body to melt. Connecting again to that intention you set for this practice. Maybe you're focusing again on the extended exhale. However you're doing it, just remember it's exactly right. Just allow yourself to be. beginning to deepen your breath in your belly. Starting to prepare at the navel center to draw that knee back into the middle. Bring the feet to the floor. And then slowly draw the low back to the ground. You can maybe rock your pelvis from side to side. And then pick up that bolster and bring it to the opposite side. So this time now it's on the side of your leg. Once you come back to center, if you were doing a little rocking, you can lift up your hips, bring them over to the left, drop or gently set down that right hip and glute, lengthen the right leg, and then bring the left leg over so that it can rest on the bolster. Arms can come out to a T, and then you can turn your head and look in the opposite direction. So facing that the left fingertips. If it's too much to turn your head, getting that twist all the way from the bottom of the spine to the top, you can stay in the center, or even if it feels even better, you can look and face the right fingertips. Whatever is in service to you, reminding yourself again that if you need it or would like to have a little extra weight holding or tacking down the left leg just to take any pressure off you holding it, that's available. A blanket at the navel, possibly an eye pillow or scarf over the eyes and the forehead, just to again bring more calming and gentle awareness. So settle in. beginning to deepen your breath in your bellies. If you have any blankets on, you can move them off to the side. Starting to prepare and draw that knee back into the center. Bringing the head back to center. Maybe gently drawing the knees in towards the chest and giving yourself a little rock from side to side, or grabbing the feet and coming into a happy baby. Whether it's mobile rocking or just static, whatever feels good and gentle. And then you can move the bolster off to the side and grab a block. Or if you don't have a block, maybe you have a bolster. So we're gonna do something that's just slightly active. We won't hold it for a really long time, but it's to prepare us for the next couple poses. I thought we would try, it's a little bit more yin-like, but we're gonna move into a pigeon pose after this. So I want you to feel like your legs have been sufficiently stretched before we start getting into that. So you're going to come up to standing. Again, might feel like a lot after all the resting we've been doing. And then you're gonna widen your legs and do a slight pigeon toe, okay? You might notice that you can go pretty wide on your mat. I'm a fairly short human, but even I can go pretty wide. But just play with that. Your knees can be bent. The idea here is I want you to rest your forehead on a block. So I've got kind of a thicker, heavier block. I have it kind of on the highest setting, but I have other blocks, and if I needed it a little bit higher, I could put those blocks underneath. But I want this to feel, again, just relaxing, but yet we're getting stretching happening through the inner thighs, through the outer thighs, pressing down through the legs gently, pulling up gently. So go ahead and take your time settling into that. We're not gonna spend a ton of time here like we did with the other poses. It's just to wake things up in preparation for our next pose. Breathe into your body. Try to make sure you have a micro bend through those knees, especially if you are somewhat hypermobile or overly flexible. You don't wanna overdo it. A few more breaths here. And then gently starting to deepen your breath, press into your hands, maybe heel toe it in just slightly, maybe coming into a squat for a minute just to settle into those inner thighs again. And then we're going to make our way into a pigeon pose with our props. So we're gonna support ourselves. So here I'm lucky, I've got two sort of squishy small blocks, like the kind of like narrower ones. And then I have this blanket. Now, it might be nice if I had many blankets, but we'll just sort of see how this goes. I'm gonna take this blanket, and I know I'm gonna at least fold it, or maybe I'm gonna roll it, depending. So I'm gonna start with my right side. So I'm gonna just keep the props off to the side. I'm going to come into downward facing dog, really shift my hips up towards the ceiling, pick up my right leg as much as I can, start to arch and come forward as if I'm coming into a plank, and then flex and engage my foot, bringing the heel kind of in line with my opposite hip, okay? If that is too much, right, you can always sort of just have your knee bent and the heel underneath the same glute, if that makes sense. You can do it from behind here. So if it doesn't feel good the other way, you can just do it like this. So once you get settled here, you're going to take your props, your various props, pillows, blocks, blankets, and I'm gonna shove this block underneath my back leg and my glute kind of hamstring area. But if that didn't feel good or didn't feel like the right height, then I would use the blanket, okay? Now the next piece, to make it feel a little more restorative, is we're gonna take our bolster and I'm gonna adjust it. And then I'm gonna lean over forward and just rest. So do whatever you need to do so that this stretch feels as restorative as possible. So if there's pinching in the knee, right, that would be something that I can imagine happening, then you would want to make sure that you're either flexing that foot, because flexing that foot could help, or you're just bringing that entire shin underneath you. And it doesn't feel quite like a pigeon. You might have to turn your head in the opposite direction, but you're still getting a nice stretch and opening through the legs. So just play with it. Make sure that it feels beneficial and doesn't hurt. And then we will settle in. Beginning to deepen your breath in your bellies, starting to press those hands into the floor, maybe moving a bolster out of the way, and then pressing yourself back up and out of the pose. And then taking your time to move anything else out of the way and setting yourself up for the opposite side, so coming into your downward facing dog. Really shifting those sit bones up towards the ceiling. Lift that left leg as high as you can. Bringing it forward, flexing and engaging that heel, that left heel is in front of the right thigh, flexed and engaged. And then making whatever adjustments might feel supportive. Reminding yourself that if there's anything that's pinching or shooting or hurting, come out of it and change things up. This can be a pose that some people find really lovely and other people, it just doesn't feel good. You can always do the number 4 stretch. Should have mentioned that to you before. Laying on your back, and in this case, keeping the right foot on the floor, left foot bent. So it's up, maybe the ankle's on top of the right thigh. And you can just either press your hand into the left inner thigh, or you can start to pick your right foot off the ground and think about driving the right knee to the nose. You could maybe bring your hands behind the right hamstring. Otherwise, you can just relax and rest on the floor. Good. Beginning to deepen your breath in your belly, gently, slowly pressing into the floor, coming back out. And then if you have a wall, I'm going to have you do legs up the wall if you like, provided you don't have any serious low back pains. Or if you don't have a wall accessible, you can take that block, put it underneath that low back like we did before, and lift your feet up towards the ceiling, bringing your hands either to either side or into a T or into goalpost. Now, if you have your moon cycle, menstrual cycle, you'll want to, and you're at like the beginning stages, you probably are not going to want to do an inversion. It can just add like a heavier, add heaviness. Not most of us don't want to add extra heaviness during that time. But if you feel good and you want to try this, I have a fairly large bolster. I think I've mentioned that for those of you who have taken this a couple times. We've done this maybe once, I think. But I'm going to make a little step ladder for my low back, so I'm not going so crazy in this gentle back bend, right? So you're going to set yourself up. So if you have a smaller bolster, that's perfect. Just leave it alone. Otherwise, I might make a little step. If I had another blanket, I might even add it, but I think I'm good. So I always sit right next to the bolster so that my hip is kissing that edge, right? And then I pretend that I'm a toddler. And then I just roll onto the bolster, and then I'm able to bring my legs up. If I don't do it that way, then I'm gonna be trying to get myself up the wall, and there's just like a lot of weird stuff going on. So just try it. When you're ready, then roll the shoulders down and away. Maybe grab a blanket for the belly. Bring the arms out to a T or goalpost arms. And settle in. Some people like to take a block and put it on the feet so that it reminds you to flex your feet. Just like this nice gentle reminder to keep your legs engaged, but we're not trying to overdo it, right? We're trying to relax. You might want to put the eye pillow on your eyes, scarf over your eyes, and just go ahead and settle in. Reminding yourself to bring awareness to the breath. yourself to come back to your inner world. Beginning to deepen your breath in your bellies. Slowly starting to bend those knees. Maybe gently drawing the feet down the wall. Maybe moving any blankets out of the way so that you can roll over to one side gently. When you are ready, you're just going to set yourself up for Shavasana. So you can just do a plain Shavasana, legs stretched out nice and long, roll those shoulders down and away, hands at either side of the hips. You can use a bolster under the knees. You could even put your bolster on top of a couple blocks, making a Stonehenge. Or if for whatever reason certain things weren't available, but your low back was just maybe calling your name a little bit, you can bring your feet to the floor, bring those feet as wide as your mat, and then drop the knees into one another. This can relax and sort of traction out your low back. Hands to either side. And start to bring the awareness in, noticing the rise and fall of the belly. Continuing to deepen your breath in your bellies. Bringing one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly, and just acknowledging yourself for making time for you, for making time for yoga. Connect back with that intention you set for this time. Just take a moment to honor the continual unfolding for the rest of the day, any energetic shifts throughout the week that may come from this. Just allow that to be that seed that you've planted. When you're ready, roll over to your right side, gently pushing yourself up to a comfortable seat with your eyes either closed or downcast. You can bring your hands into prayer pose or Anjali Mudra. Bring those hands up to the point between your eyebrows. May you always see clearly, be full of wisdom, what you need and what you can give. Bring your hands to your lips. May your lips always speak the truth, speak words kindly and honestly. And bring your hands to your heart. May your heart be full of love, compassion, and acceptance first for yourself, so you can inspire love, compassion, and acceptance in others. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me.